issue is not the stuff outside your house, but in your house. Okay, let's dig deep. Can I go deep just for a second? Are we in school? Okay, good. Listen, what happens when it's not your children's friend, it's your child? Because we like to blame everything on the outside. We say, well, they being influenced. Well, what if your child is the influencer? What if it ain't what if it ain't the child? What if it's the parents? What if the reason the child acts the way it acts is because of the environment that the parents have put it in? What if that's the issue? How do you deal with a Saul? Saul is an issue that most people can't deal with. Saul is an issue that most people are scared to deal with. Let's deal with it. Saul goes after David and ends up in a cave. David is in the same said cave. For anybody that knows the story, David is in the same cave that Saul is in. He's actually deeper in the cave because Saul is now looking for David. David is hiding in a cave. Saul goes into the same cave, but he doesn't go deep enough. Saul gets a little tired, goes to sleep, and David walks up to Saul and has the ability to kill him at that very moment. But the Bible says that he takes just a little bit of hair off of Saul's head and then waits till Saul gets back to the kingdom, meets Saul at the kingdom and say, listen, if I wanted to kill you, I could have. Oh my goodness. This is for the people that keep coming after you and you could shut them down if you wanted to. This is for the people that keep putting your name in their mouth and got something to say about you, but if you just open up your mouth, you can shut the whole operation down. Let the truth be told. You could open your mouth and discredit everything they had to say about you. They keep thinking your kindness is weakness. Oh my goodness. A lot of us make it to the place where most of us would have killed Saul in that cave. But David knew something. You don't deal with a Saul like you do a Goliath. He says, no, because if I kill Saul, I got to deal with Saul's people. If I kill the king, then the kingdom going to turn on me. Ooh, Jesus, that's heavy. If I kill Saul, then the entire kingdom that I'm about to take over is going to turn on me. That's why you have to, oh my goodness. That's why the Bible says that this is the Lord's battle. There's some stuff that you could do, but just because you could do it don't mean you should do it. Just because you can don't mean you should. And that's when you know God is really talking to you. Because God will tell you, I know you can kill them. I know you want to, but don't. Let me deal with them. Oh my God. And you're going to have to be spiritually mature enough to allow God to deal with him in the manner that he wants to deal with your soul. It is not your responsibility to kill Saul. Because only kings kill kings. Oh my goodness. Oh my God. Only kings kill kings. If you're not in the position as a king, it is not your responsibility to kill said king. Who's the king of all kings? Our Lord and Savior. So I let him deal with the people that are over me. Oh my God. See, we want to be the one to take down the kingdom. We want to be the one that take over the palace. But God says, listen, I'll give it to you and I'll give it to you free of any debt, but I can't give it to you if you try to take it. Oh God. There's some stuff that we have, oh my goodness. There are some stuff, I feel it now. There are some stuff that in our lives that we have tried to take from the enemy. And again, I just said earlier, there's some stuff that you're going to have to take. You are absolutely right. But you're going to have to hear from God on what needs to be taken or not. Because if you read the Bible, there were times, even in David's life, where he would take over a territory, and God would tell him, hey, kill everybody, but don't take nothing from the place. He's like, kill everybody, but don't you take nothing. Because what if you take something, then you're going to take what they had on that into your kingdom. See, some stuff that you allow in your house. Oh my goodness. Me and my wife, we was letting, at one point in time, we had let some people stay with us. We were living in Houston. We had let some people stay in our house, and it was really good, and they were great people. But after they had left, we started finding out some issues. And you know how you be like, wait a minute, hold on. Wait a minute, time out. Was that you? No, that ain't you. It wasn't me. So who started this? Not knowing that people hover over entities. That's why the enemy is the prince of principalities. So that means that a person can come in a place, infect the place, and then leave, and you're still dealing with said infection. You can get rid of a parasite, but if the parasite is venomous, you then have to deal with the venom. There are some things that you killed the snake, but you haven't dealt with the venom. You've gotten rid of the person, you've gotten rid of the problem, but you're still dealing with the effects of said problem. Okay. What do you mean, PC? I'm happy that you asked. Let's dig deep. So, you've said what you need to say to your family. You said what you need to say to your people at work. But what you haven't done is change their perspective after you've dealt with them. So the person that you didn't like, that you cussed out and that you fought and did all of that, now they no longer at the job. But now people are still dealing with what they said about you at the job. There's a thing called Anti-Venom. Okay? There's a thing called Anti-Venom. If you ever been bit by a snake or know anything about venomous snakes, what they would do is they would take the same venom that the snake carries and they'll put it in this tube, right? Now, this is the very thing that can kill you. But to get an anti-venom, you have to understand how said venom works. Okay? In the nursing field, in the medical field, that's what they do. If you want a cure of anything, you need to first take the very thing that's killing people. You need to get a vaccine. The first thing you need to do is take the very thing that you are fighting, and you have to first contain it. And then when you first contain it, then you start to drop in things and see how it fights. And you begin to experiment on how this thing fights. Okay, let's go deeper. So if you and your family are dealing, let's just say, with alcoholism, and it's been passed down generation from generation to generation, how do you break that hold of that? Well, the first thing you do is you isolate it. The first thing you do is you isolate it and you get it around something that it's not used to. And you put it into a place that it's not used to and watch how it begins to act in it being around something that it's not used to. And then you begin to interject whatever you need. Okay, there's a place called, what is it, AA, AAA? Oh, you said AAA. It's AA. AAA is if you ever want your tires rotated. No, so you go to AA, right? And at AA, the first thing they do is you have to admit that you got an issue. That's the first thing you got to do. You got to open up your mouth and you got to admit, I got a problem. I got an issue, and I can't control it, right? And then when you begin to open up your mouth and you confess that, then you can deal with said problem. The enemy has tricked you into thinking that you don't have an issue. He tricked Saul into thinking that he didn't have an issue because Saul's issue really wasn't David. Let me help you. Saul's issue wasn't David. Saul's issue was the attention that David got. They were singing songs like Saul has killed his thousands, but David his 10,000s. And Saul was like, why are they giving this man this type of recollection when I'm king? Had Saul, oh my goodness, I truly believe that had Saul been mature enough to let the people say what they needed to say and he just still be king, be like, hey, I don't care what they say, I'm king, God would have still used him and then would have prepared him to be able to prepare David. Oh my God. But what happens is we allow the position of people to put us in a place that we don't want to be. Okay, let's deal with this and then let's go home. Let's deal with what does refine mean, right? What does refine mean? Refine means to extract metal from its ore by a process involving heating and melting. Refine is a process. Remember, we talked about being in a process of extracting metal by heating it up and by melting it. I'm going to say something, and this might trigger you, and I'm sorry. You can't be used of God if you ain't been through no heat. You cannot say you are fighting this battle with the Lord and he ain't put you through no type of fire. That is not how God operates. You can't say that you live in this life and you ain't gone through no problems. That you ain't dealt with no type of heat. Okay, let's prove it. Proverbs 17:3. Proverbs 17:3. It says, the refining pot is for silver and the furnace for gold. But the Lord tests the heart. The Lord tests your heart. But if you're going to be refined, first, you got to be put into the furnace. I read that scripture, and what really hit me, well, it lets me know that there's two levels. You have the silver for the furnace. You have the refining pot for the silver, and then you have the furnace for the gold. To extract silver, it goes to a refining pot. But to extract gold, it goes into a furnace. What's the difference between a refining pot and a furnace? See, this is the kind of stuff I'll be thinking through, right? A refining pot is the pot is made to control the heat. And whatever's in the pot gets melted down. And you're able to take the silver out of what's melted down. But when it comes to gold, there is no containment. It goes into a furnace, which means that it's fire on all sides. And the only way to get purified in a furnace is you got to stay in there long enough. You have to stay in the furnace long enough to then, when it's time for you to come out, you don't make the decision when you are ready in a furnace. Because anybody can look in a refining pot and see that everything is melted away and there's silver sitting in the middle. And you can see that. You be like, oh, you don't know nothing about refining, but you can look in the pot and say, okay, there's the metal portion because everything else has melted away. But in a furnace, if you are not created to know what it looks like while it being on fire, then you can't tell what's gold and what's not. That's why you can get gold that looks like gold today and it don't be real, because you really don't know the difference unless you are trained to know what gold really looks like. Oh my goodness. So what happens is God puts you in the furnace, because if you want to go into the level of you want to come out pure as gold, then you got to go through the furnace. All right. So let's deal with this. Refining really means private pain. And then we're going to go home. Refining means private pain. This is where he reveals you to you. To refine is where God reveals you to you. This is a private moment. This is, nobody can see you going through the heat. This is where he got you to the place where now you're circled around good people. But even the good people that you're around can't see what you're going through. The refining pot. Private pain. Have you ever been there? Jordan, you can play for me because I'm about to end. Have you ever been there to the point where you feel like nobody sees you and you going through it? You going through it. You feel like, Jesus, don't nobody see what's going on? And he says, don't worry about it. I got you in the refining pot. And then you have the furnace, which is public pain. Public pain. This is where he proves you to them. This is where God shows up in your pain, but he proves to you that he's with you, but he also shows them that he's with you. Okay? You know the story, Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego. They got put into this fiery furnace in public, in front of people. If you know the story, that the furnace was dug deep. It was deep so the king could look over, and certain people could look over and see the people that they put in the furnace to burn. And King Nebuchadnezzar was like, okay, we put Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego in this furnace, but who's the fourth person? And then he says, this looks like the Son of God. Let me help you with that insane statement. Jesus don't show up for hundreds of years after that statement. How in the world does King Nebuchadnezzar know it's Jesus in the furnace? Nebuchadnezzar don't even serve the same God. He don't even serve the same God. How do you know? How do you know? This is when it's in the furnace is when Jesus shows up for you, but he shows up to show everybody else. The reason you're in the furnace, he said, I got you. I know it's hot. I know it hurts. I know it's public. I know it's public. I know they're talking about you on Facebook. I know they're talking about you in the shade room. I know that they have their own opinions about you. I know that everybody's making judgments and they ain't even talk to you about it. I know. But the longer you stay and you let me do what I do, the longer you stay, the more they'll see me. Jesus walks into the furnace, shows up, and the only thing Nebuchadnezzar could see was him. He takes the attention off of what's going on with Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego. He says, who is the fourth dude in there? God says, I'll let you stay in there, but I'm not going to let you stay in there too long. I promise you, you won't be in there too long. And when I show up, I promise you, when I show up, it's going to change everything that people see in you. The Bible goes on and says that as soon as he gets Shadrach, Meshach, and Abednego out, and then it says it changes Nebuchadnezzar's worship. I say it all the time. What you go through, a lot of times, is about the people that's connected to you. The reason why they're looking at you the way they look at you is because they're waiting to see what you're going to do while you're handling the issue that you are going through. We all go through some of the same stuff, saved and unsaved. It rains on the just as well as the unjust. But what do you do with the rain? Do you complain like everybody else? Or do you get an umbrella and keep it pushing? How often have we allowed our emotions and people's thought process to take us out of the furnace when we wasn't ready? Last thing, we'll go home. God may not always make sense, but he'll always make a way. I said all that to get to this. He may not always make sense, but he'll always make a way. I've learned that through the years. People have come and blessed me and my family, and it didn't make sense. It didn't make sense. People have come and give to me and my family, and it didn't make sense. But God promised that he'll make a way. There was one time in our life where a hurricane had hit in Houston. And me and my wife and our 4 children, I had just lost a job right before the hurricane. And I had been looking for work, and my wife was in school, and you don't think about your bills when you're able to pay them, but the minute that you can't pay them, your bills look bigger than the world. And what ended up happening is a hurricane hit, and me and my family in the Houston area, we go without lights, water, or gas for almost 3 months. We ain't talking about a short amount of time. And we had babies, Babies they didn't understand ain't no food. And I remember me and my wife, we prayed one morning, and my prayer, just when you start getting desperate, right? Those desperate prayers where, you're crying, and all I can say is like, God, you got to do something. I'm serving you, and I'm out here, and I'm going to church, and you ain't doing nothing. I'm mad. I'm going to be honest with you, it was a mad prayer. And as I was praying, there was a knock on our door. And so I get up, and I go answer the door. And it was a neighbor of ours. he says, hey, man, I know it's early. He says, but I don't want to offend you. He says, but there's something I got to do. I said, okay. Now, again, we wasn't no real close neighbors. You know, we seen each other every once in a while. And he said, hey, now remember, he don't believe in what I believe in. But he said, something told me. He says, it's been heavy on my heart. Something told me to get up this morning, come check on you and your family and your babies. I said, you know, me as a dude, you know, we good, man. How you doing? You know, I don't want to confess to another man that I can't feed my family. I'm like, oh man, we good, man. You know, it's hard, you know, ain't got no lights, no water. He ain't had no lights and water either. We in the same apartment complex. At that point in time, we were staying in the townhomes. And he says, well, hey, listen, come roll with me if it's all right with you. I said, okay, everything good? He was like, yeah, just if you could, just come ride with me. I said, all right. We jump in his car and we head down the road and we pull into the nearest HEB. And HEB had just turned their power back on, just got their power back on, so the place is packed. Well, lo and behold, I didn't know that he was a state trooper. This is what he did for a living. And he gets me, and we walk into HEB. He grabs a buggy, and he says, grab a buggy too. I said, okay, cool. And then we started walking, and he says, what do your kids eat? And I'm like, oh, man, they kids, they eat whatever we give them, brother. You know? And so he started getting cereal and stuff like that. Then he says, you know, what does your wife like to eat? I was like, you know, we some steak eaters. You know, we like steaks, pork chops, chicken, stuff like that. And we go and he begins to fill up the buggy. And I'm like, okay, God, what you doing? And I, you know, I'm like, well, I ain't gonna tell him that I ain't got no money. You know, I'm just gonna wait till we get to this cash register and say, hey, brother, you did this, not me. Like, you're like, you asked me to come. I didn't ask, you know, I ain't asked if you could take me. But it never gets to that point. Literally, we fill up 2 buggies. And then we're going to the checkout line, and he says, you know what? He says, hold on. He gets another buggy. And he says, do your kids like toys? And I'm like, what kids don't like toys? And so he puts a bunch of toys, you know, we got 3 girls and 1 boy. He puts a bunch of toys in the buggy, and then we get to the checkout line. And he's talking to me. We laughing and joking, and the lady is just scanning. Boop, boop, boop. I'm trying my best not to look at that price on the machine. And, you know, and at the end of it, he's talking, and she leans over and she says, you know, that'll be $1,300.47. You know, and I'm waiting on him to say, hey, so you got your half, you know. And he's talking to me, and he don't break conversation with me. He takes out his wallet, and gets his card, and he's talking to me. He hands it to her, and he's just talking, everything like that. And then, you know, we get the bags and everything, and I still ain't said nothing. I'm like, should I thank him? Because I know all this can't be for us, right? This is some of their food, some of our food, maybe, you know. And literally, we drive back to the apartment complex. And before he gets out the car, he reaches in his glove compartment and he takes out another $2,000 and says, I don't know nothing about you.
Look at that.
He says, I don't know nothing about you. I don't know nothing about your family. I don't know none of that. He says, but I know there's something different. He says, that's all I know. is that there's something different about your family. He says, I'm gonna be honest with you, I don't believe in God. I don't believe in God like you believe in God. But I can't resist. He says, I can't resist it. It's something. There's something. He says, so if it is God telling me to do this, then here you go. He gives me the money, and I say, thank you. I said, can I pray for you? He's like, if that's what you want to do. I said, I do. It's something I would love to. And I said, this is the quickest prayer I've ever prayed. I said, God, thank you for using me to be the seed. I said, use this man from this day forth. Give him favor. Well, he gives me the money. We take all these back. And, PK is looking at me like, where did you get all this? Because remember, we ain't got no electricity. Because now we got to figure out how we can keep all this stuff cold. Right? And so we end up with the money. We end up getting bags of ice that we could. And we bought some chests. But that's not where the story ends. We got all of that. And we still can't cook it because, again, we ain't got no electricity. We ain't got no gas. The next neighbor on the other side, the next day, am I lying, baby? Comes and knocks on the door. And he says, hey, listen, I'm a gourmet chef. I used to, cook on a certain cruise ship. And he was the top chef, like he was the top dog. And he was like, I see that you got your babies. He says, I know we ain't got no electricity, because he says, I got 2 generators that's hooked up in my house, right? He's like, if you will allow me, I want to feed your family. I'm thinking just maybe for the night and all that. I was like, absolutely, sure, not a problem. And so he cooks us some steaks that night. And we full, the kids full. And till this day, I haven't found a steak better, right? Well, that was that night. That next morning, he comes knock on the door again. And I open the door and he says, breakfast, and walks away. So I'm like, sir, I still hadn't had his name. I'm like, sir, what do you mean breakfast? He's like, come on, get the kids, let's go. Okay. And that's when I was like, obedience is better than sacrifice. So I get my kids and we go downstairs and we go next door and we eat breakfast. 12 noon hit. He knocks on the door. Lunch. By 8 o'clock that night, he knocks on the door. Dinner. This man did that for 2 months. Till this day, I don't remember his name. None of them. I don't remember none of their names. Till this day, I don't remember none of their names. I said all this to go back to my last statement. He may not make sense. He may not make sense, but he will make a way. He will make a way. You might not know where it's coming from, but when he makes a way, let him. Let him. They didn't know me. They didn't know my family. We wasn't friends. We didn't hang out together. We seen each other in crossing. That was it. I didn't know their names. But when God is ready to provide, he will use any and everything around you to bless you. He don't care if they believe in him or not. When it's time to bless you, he will provide the way. The money will come. Even if he has to make it come from the very place you don't want it to come from, he will make a way.
Yes, he will.
That's what it's about. That's what it's about. He gonna make a way. He's going to make a way. He is going to make a way. Your job is to believe him and trust him and let him be God. Let him be the deliverer. Let him be the sanctifier. Let him be the healer. So this is for everybody that's in a situation that don't see a way out. I don't know if you're watching by way of online, if you're in this building, I'm telling you, he will make a way. That's just one instance I could tell you. Me and my wife, we got a lot of stories to tell you. If I wanted to, I could tell you last week he made a way. Somebody came and dropped off money in my hands that changed the trajectory of my week. I ain't gotta go back that far. He'll make a way, but your job is to believe. See, when God's ready, you're gonna have to believe and trust him. Believe and trust him. It might not make sense. Matter of fact, it's not gonna make sense because you ain't God. He says, my ways are higher than your ways. My thoughts are higher than your thoughts. You're not gonna know. You're not gonna understand. Let him be God in your life.